Yes, hello and welcome. You're tuned to The Leg Up, your weekly thoroughbred preview podcast, and boy, oh boy, have we got a bumper weekend in store at Te Rapa, and two Group 1s. Going to be a cracking day's racing at Te Rapa. But first things first, you'll notice a little difference. Good morning, Paul Moati.
Morning, Thad.
What are you doing out of your bunker?
Well, to be fair, it wasn't my choice. I'd much rather be back there. It's a nice little spot, and I actually enjoy it there much more than being...
You don't see this as a promotion? Is that what you're telling me?
Oh, I don't like being in here with you and Steve in the room, a room the size of a matchbox.
Tell us what you really think.
It's people might think it's okay. No, it's not. It's a challenge. In fact, it would probably be a challenge on Fear Factor. They'd say,
it's not all that.
Could just be in an hour in a room with Thad and Steve, and you go, no.
How are we going to fill an hour without Stephen Hunt, and where is he? That's more importantly.
Well, he's got big news, hasn't he?
Yeah, I've heard something. What is the news?
Congratulations, he's just added a filly to the family.
Unnamed filly?
Unnamed filly.
At the stage, okay.
A sister for Leo.
Yep.
Congratulations to Steve and Sarah.
Absolutely.
Fantastic, great news.
Yeah, 100%. No, That's fantastic. So he's away for a couple of weeks, so we're going to have to do without him. Yes, we'll see how that goes over the next 50 or 55 minutes or so. Paul, last week we'd lost Taranaki, but a little bit of joy for you down south, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, the punters didn't miss either.
No, they did not.
I think Hasbro closed odds on in the end. Only bad luck was getting. I thought we did have the bad luck when he missed the jump,
yes.
But he just had too much in the end.
Just bolted away, didn't he? You were spot on. $3.20 when we were having that discussion on Friday morning last week.
$3.20, that's right. Yeah, and closed even money odds on in the end. I think on the Billy Goat anyway.
Yeah, okay. Well, here's a man that would have been following Paul Moati. And good morning to you, BP. I think we had the Penny Panthers last week. Who we got this week? Who is this?
Who is this? We got the Gold Coast Seagulls, of course, formerly before they were defunct, and then they came back as the Gold Coast Titans. Another club from the 80s and 90s to celebrate here on the leg up. Of course, Kiwi Brent Todd went from the Canberra Raiders to then finish his career at the Gold Coast Seagulls along with Wally Lewis. Dale Shearer might have been there too, a former Origin player. So, there's a couple of players for you from back in the days. But in terms of last weekend, shame that we had the abandonment out of Taranaki after just one race meeting. But certainly the highlight with what we saw in the white robe was with Hasbro, and maybe potentially we'll see that horse looking towards some bigger spoils coming up in the next couple of weeks. But convincing winner in the feature, and nice work, Moati, finding that at $3.20.
Yeah, Jacob Lowry enjoyed it. Good on him.
Yes, loved it on the line. A little bit like Michael McNabb and Melody Bell in a size produce stakes. And look, great to see that raw emotion from jockeys. I know it meant a lot to Jacob Lowry and finally pulling off that race itself in the white robe. So it would have been a great day for the club in terms of Wingatui being the standalone race meeting. They were able to, unfortunately, as I said, for the Taranaki club, we have seen those features filtered throughout the week, and we will see another one today out of Awapuni as we record this and go live Friday morning. And then, of course, the 3-year-old filly feature will move to a Friday program around their twilight fixture in a week or so. So, looking forward to what's coming up, though, this weekend, Thad. Legends Day out of Te Rapa, and such a strong field around all races.
Yeah, please.
Just back to Wally Lewis.
Of course, as we were talking about him,
the king. If there was one player that made him look ordinary at times...
I know where you're going with this. He's no longer with us, is he?
No, Olsen Filipina, who unfortunately has passed away, so it's a sad time for rugby league fans. And if you were a fan and followed the Kiwis during the 70s and 80s...
Which you did. Many of our viewers probably were.
I do remember. He was a big part of the Kiwis' success during that time. And, of course, back in those days, the bulk of the Kiwi team was made up of domestic players. We weren't as many Kiwis playing over in the NRL, so they did well to challenge the Kangaroos, who were the best in the world at the time.
I heard Hugh McGann this morning on the radio with Ian Smith, and he was quite emotional about it, talking about Olsen. And he was a garbo. He was a garbage man back in the day.
Sydney,
try and lose weight, because he was quite a large boy. And he was still did that right up to the end. Really, he drove his truck, a garbage truck.
Exactly, he was a standoff in a front row's body.
Okay. We should probably save this banter for the end of the show if you're trying to fill time rather than the start. We need to actually get through some racing.
I just couldn't let the Wally Lewis because
letting go by.
I actually popped down to Coolangatta when the Seagulls were there, and Wally Lewis was training by himself.
What's he? How old is he?
Pre-season training.
Yeah.
He would have been, late 30s then?
Okay.
Yeah.
The king. Right. As I say, let's get off the rugby league chat.
Yeah,
We're here to
sweet.
talk racing.
Yeah.
We're going to start with you, BP, and go to your Maiden of the week. Now, look, last week, top note. I picked it. I said it would be the Maiden of the week on way in, and I was right. Good win from Top Note. Who have you got for us this week?
Well, it's all about laying the platform, isn't it? Heading into weigh-in on Monday. So, look, there was a few options to choose, I think, for this week's Maiden of the week. I've gone for a race where I just feel as though there is going to be some winners bouncing out of this race, and Cruisy Lass is the horse that we're going with in that maiden race out of Ruakaka. The second horse is not too far away from getting it done. What was the key to this race was Sam Weatherly's ride, following Opie Boston everywhere he went aboard Selassie. Now, Selassie was the runner that ended up starting second favourite because all the money came for Cruisy Lass, who bounced out of a Waikato Guineas coming back to this maiden race and was able to get the job done. I believe there's something in the third horse in this race too, by the name of If in Doubt Dance. And then there's a couple of other nice runners in behind. Pick of the Litter was working home. Above the Clouds was a horse who came into that race with a couple of starts for 2 seconds. So there just should be enough around this race that has been taken out by Cruisy Lass, who is a 3-year-old filly trained by Chris Gibbs. Selassie's a horse that'll be winning at very short notice. He's a quality horse, and as I said, that third horse and a couple of them behind. So I thought it was a nice maiden race to follow around the winner and others out of the race.
Yeah, Selassie, a former Maiden of the week, BP, just knocked off, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it was involved in the Canadian Girl race. That's right.
Yes,
So,
yes.
So, Canadian Girl winning that race. Selassie, was third. Milkman was second. SVR was in that race. He then ran fifth and then came out and won next time. So, yeah, hopefully, maybe a similar type of race to what we've seen out of that race.
Yeah, one of those strong maiden races that BP can find for us. Very, very good indeed. So we're going with Cruisy Lass. Chris Gibbs, good to see him on the board up there at Ruakaka. Righto, guys. We've got a bumper card at Te Rapa to get through, and we're going to have a look at 4 feature races, and we're going to start with race number 3. That is the Platinum Homes 2-year-old Classic. And we headed up here, Paul, with a 1-start 1-win. Jamie Richards, Opie Boston, no surprise.
No surprises whatsoever, and punters have jumped on already. 70% of the turnover in the final field win market is on number 7, Marvin Bell, 210. There's a few friends as well for Charmario at $4.20, Zahir's at $8, Patton out of the Tony Pike stable at $8.50, Val Di Zoldo, $9, and then we're in double figures after that. The first starter from Team Rogerson, Villon, at 14s.
Yeah, okay, Villon 14s, Paul the 116s, but Marvin Bell, or Maven Bell, or we'll get Pops' pronunciation of it. Look, it was impressive, BP, won nicely. Quite a high starting price. It was interesting to me, $18, and that's a bit unusual. So obviously that's factored in a little bit to what it does next up, but how did you rate that win, and obviously where do you have it in this market?
Everything panned out nicely for the horse in that race at Te Araha. It was a horse who was able to park up in behind speed, get out at the right time, and then produce that really good effort to win. Now, what was encouraging out of that race is the horse that ran second behind Marvin Bell was Hannah Lee, who's then come out and won the Wellesley Stakes at its next start to the races. So you immediately got a stakes performance in behind this runner. And that runner in Hannah Lee. So that really does look to be a top reference. This time round we have Barrow Drill 1, Opie's on. There just seemed to be a little bit of pressure that'll come from horses like maybe Charmaria from a sticky gate, Zahir for sure, drawn in barrier number 2, and a couple of other runners in that middle barriers, horses like Gwen Stefani might look to push forward and try and overcome her wide gate because she's shown speed in her races. Is a runner that will play a key part and a key point to this race in terms of speed, what happens at the start. So that's going to be down to Opie to be able to assess that, and he might be able to just take a spot in behind or use barrier number 1. But this race suits better for this runner as opposed to maybe last week, of course, out of New Plymouth, where we were talking about an awkward gate. Do they use the barrier and try look to be positive from out wide and get into a position of outside leader? Here they have a lot of good options as opposed to trying to work out how to come up with different ABC plans. So really $2.10 looks to be the play here around this horse, and and looks hard to hold out. Who are her dangers in this race? I think Patton does come as a horse with dangers in this race to some of them because of the way he won at Ellerslie. Now, he did beat home Paul the Wine, who was a race rival. He has a good draw. His trials were nice leading into that. He is a horse that is around that each way price if you were trying to find something away from the $2 quote if you were searching for odds in the race. But yep, it keeps coming back to that old formula in the end, guys, of Tiako, Richardson, Bosson in a 2-year-old race.
Yeah, Pops makes a good point, Paul, around the favourite Marvin Bell beating Hunterlee, and then Hunterlee comes out and beats Charmario.
Form franked.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, form franked. But then Charmario obviously has to be in play as well. How are you looking at it?
Yeah, look, I'm just getting a wee bit tired of looking for reasons not to back Opie Bosson and Jamie Richards. And
that's all we do, yeah. That's all we can do.
Well, exactly, and then coming out on the wrong end. So I'm looking nowhere else than number 7, Marvin Bell, this time. I just cannot see Marvin Bell from the ace draw with Opie Bosson on getting in trouble here.
You're high on confidence after Hazelbrough, aren't you? You cannot see. You go, yeah.
Well, yeah, I did. I looked down the page and I thought, let's find some reasons not to back Marvin Bell.
Yep.
And I struggled to find them.
Couldn't come up with any.
So
he has a way of extracting them, doesn't he, from barrier 1? I mean, obviously you can get a little bit of bad luck potentially from barrier 1 on the odd occasion, but Opie manages to...
Opie Bosson?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
He
okay.
certainly negates any concerns you have there. Look, the first starters, BP, Villon. What can you tell us about Villon and in particular? And there's another one down the page here I'm looking for that I want to know a little bit about. I was going to say Val Desoldo, but it ran second. Yeah. But Villon, yeah. What about Villon?
It looked okay through his trials. Look, he's a middle barrier draw. He's a horse who, what we've seen through the trials, might be able to use it. So, he is a horse that strikes a field of runners that do bring some good race day form. But he brings sound enough trial form to say that he can be a hope if you're wanting to expand in a trifecta or first 4, or trying to play a top 4 market. Again, if you're not keen on taking 2.10 on a horse to win a race, then you do start exploring those options of a horse like this runner, or maybe a horse like Valdesoldo, runner number 9. She's a horse who has a sticky gait. She drew well when she ran second last time to the races behind Fellini, who then has gone on to be placed in the Kadaka Million. In that race, overcame the good barrier draw by being slow away and used it to be able to hunt and get a good run up the rails. And she finished into second position. So if she was able to run off that form, again, I'm not sure what she's going to do from a barrier draw. She becomes a squeaky hope around the trifectas and first 4s. Look, Charmario and Zahir are the two that bring sort of that next best form, don't they? You know, the Wellesley form reference around Charmario. Zahir, who was impressive with how the horse won to the eye, beating home Lord Cosmos, and then just doing a few things wrong and battled on in that race in behind Hannah Lee in the Wellesley Stakes. So, yeah, I keep coming back to Marvin Bell and the horse that I would be looking towards is an each-way chance in the race, just taking a little chance on maybe Patton, who's around that 8 to 8.5 for top 3 or top 4.
Yeah, okay. Look, Zahir, BP, you touched on it, just slightly decent push for it that day to run a race. Did run third, but I'm going to say disappointed, but well beaten. So it's hard to sort of see it turning the tables here, isn't it?
Yeah, and look, I know he's a nicely regarded 2-year-old gelding by Prasia from the team. He's a horse that has shown a lot early, and he produced that win first time out, beating a Tiako horse in Lord Cosmos in that race out of Altaki. And look, there was sky-high confidence going into that race that the horse could back it up and go 2 from 2 in a Wellesley Stakes. Look, was in the end 4 lengths off the winner and beaten by a race day rival in this race. In Charmario. But what he does have is he does have the tactical speed to use his barrier draw. He's a horse that has put himself in the race on both occasions from barriers 3 and 7 of those 2 efforts where he's planted on speed. So he doesn't have to do too much work. As I said, it just depends on what happens out wide from horses like Gwen Stefani, who will be that outside pressure in the race from barrier number 10, you would imagine, who has shown that tactical speed. But what you will get from him, as I said, is he'll put himself in the race.
Yeah, you make a good point around here. So, look, to summarise, just Marvin Bell for you, and maybe a little bit of Patton to save. Is that what we're thinking?
That's what I'm thinking. Marvin Bell, straight out on the nose, 210, could be a nice one for multis throughout the day, and maybe that early quaddie. And Patton, yeah, looking towards Patton on that top 3, top 4 line.
Into Cooper Cup, to anytime touchdown scorer in the Super Bowl.
Oh, yes, 162. He scored 16 touchdowns in the wide receiver from the Los Angeles Rams in Cooper Cup. I am looking to formulate weekend multis ending on Cooper Cup, so then I've got something to look forward to in the Super Bowl on Monday.
Yeah, okay. Not a bad idea. Paul, how did you surmise it? You're all over Marvin Bell. Is anything else down the page?
That's the only place I'm looking.
Was that right? Just going to go Opie, Jamie Richards, tried, true.
Yep.
Stick with the formula.
It'll be an all me multis.
Trust the process.
Oh, trust Opie.
You trust Opie.
Just ask BGP.
Yeah, exactly. They'll tell you, won't they? Okay, gents, we'll move it along. Race number 4 on the... No, not 4 on the card. Race number 6 on the card, of course, is the Phillies Classic, the David and Karen Ellis Phillies Classic. And it might be the Karen and David Ellis Phillies Classic, it is. Paul, run us through this market. No surprise that they are dominating this market at the TRK stable.
Here we go again. Jamie Richards, Opie Boston, number 1, Ballon Rouge, $2.10 favourite. Once again, the best backed in this race early on. Number 2, Self Obsession at $5.50. Glory Bound is at $6. Achieve $7. Princess Lowry, $13. There's a wee bit of sort of interest around Princess Lowry, even after that sort of mishap last start. Mustang Valley also at $13, and then we're out to the 20s with a former Maidener of the Week, Canadian Girl, at 21.
Yeah, okay, former Maiden of the Week. I see Glory Bounds in there as well. I think that's another former Maiden of the Week, BP, on song with those. Look, Pops, always tricky, these races, but we've lost that Oaks prelude last week at Taranaki, and a few come here. I see Mustang Valley in this field. Just going to make it very interesting, but obviously they're going to have to get past Tiako again here.
They are, aren't they? And look, they both bring terrific black type form. These two runners at the top of the book. Ballon Rouge, of course, what was it? Group 1 place in the 1,000 Guineas, then followed it up with a win in the Eulogy, and then won on Boxing Day in the 8 Carat. So we haven't seen her since then, but we have seen her in an exhibition gallop, and she certainly did monster Self Obsession in that particular track gallop last Wednesday. So that's encouraging signs to see with what we saw through that track gallop. So 210 is the price. Self Obsession, of course, last time to the races, won the Royal Stakes. And what was a narrow victory up against a horse who is in this race and is at $13 in Princess Lowry. Now, Princess Lowry went super over the Christmas Carnival, considering the horse ran third in the 8 Carat and then that very close second in the Royal Stakes. I know things didn't go her way in the Desert Gold when finishing into 9th position behind La Creek, but not much went right for many in that race because La Creek put a big space on them. So almost happy to forgive because the horse goes up in distance, and she looked like she really relished that extra distance in the Royal Stakes. She is a good sneaky chance in the race. Princess Lowry. I do keep coming back to Glory Bound. I have been really taken by this horse leading into the season. I've been keen to keep following her with how she ran first up. Now I'm going all the way back to her spring preparation. She nearly got herself into the 1,000 Guineas. She was down to race in the 1,000 Guineas. She worked up well with the Perfect Pink leading into the 1,000 Guineas, and things just went awry on the Friday morning, and she was scratched from the 1,000 Guineas. Well, then Perfect Pink came out and won that race. Look, this horse has come back well, bolted in a maiden race out of Mudda when putting them away. The second horse out of that race has actually come out and won a maiden race since. And her third last time out to the races in what was a very slowly run race, and it just turned into a sprint home, which was dominated by those that was in front and outside leader. That bent Toki in front, March Hand, who was sitting outside leader. It was very difficult for any horse to try and go past those two horses in a small field where they were dawdling in front. She ended up running all the best sectionals in the race, Glory Bound, and behind those two horses, and we finally get to see her over more ground, which is, I'm sure, is what she's been screaming out for. This will be a great line in the sand for those that have got their eyes on the New Zealand Oaks, and maybe it's an opportunity to have a little spec on something that you like in the futures market before they do run tomorrow. I'm happy to have something on Glory Bound at around that $5 or $6 market, and maybe she will push out because of that tangerine pressure in the race around those two favoured runners in Ballon Rouge and also Self Obsession, because they do bring, as I said, that rock solid black type form into the race.
Well, let's have a look at an Oaks market. Well, we've got it here, Paul. Obviously, the interest is around the Perfect Pink and La Creek. We've touched on this previously.
Both well in the Derby market.
Exactly, and you'd suggest they're both going to be there. Whether one backs up or both back up remains to be seen. But, what do we have a look here? We've got Ballon Rouge $7 and Self Obsession 10. Is it time to have a little bit of a play into this market, do you think?
Oh, well, you'd have to think that if either the Perfect Pink or La Creek do pick up a victory in the Derby, they're not going to be turning up to the Oaks. So there's a wee bit of value to be had outside of those two if one or both don't actually appear on Oaks Day at Trentham. So I guess...
Your Princess Lowry's, Maidens.
Big time. In fact, Princess Lowry will be featuring in my staking plan this Saturday.
We will get to
I'm very, very happy to put a line through that last start at Trentham. Before that, she was looking very, very good. Well, of course, yeah.
Here we go. Future proof.
Yeah. That was paid out yesterday, the future proof for the, what was it, the Herbie Dyke.
Right, of course.
So if you had a futures bet on the Herbie Dyke, you check your account because there will be a bonus bet in there if your runner didn't make the final field in the Herbie Dyke. So, and of course, that'll be going for the New Zealand Oaks as well. So you can bet with a bit of confidence.
Yeah.
If you think that the Perfect Pink or La Creek will be turning up in the Oaks, you can bet with a wee bit of confidence, knowing that if they don't turn up, you'll get your money back as a bonus.
Is there anything we should be doing at Oaks BP before tomorrow?
Look, I keep chipping away at the $10 with Glory Bound, so maybe I need to back something else. Look, Princess Larry at $18, I think could be that other horse. She's going to start, probably close to $15, $16 in this race, maybe tomorrow. But if she comes out and wins or runs another good placing, she's going to put herself in a good place heading towards that race. And especially if those two top runners, don't go towards the Oaks, your Perfect Pinks and La Creek, it does start to open the market up a touch, doesn't it, towards others that are in the middle. So, yep, $18. What else we got there that might be...
Canadian Girl.
Canadian Girl's an interesting one. Yeah, Canadian Girl, they're at $31. Maybe. Look, it's a horse that we will see over more ground tomorrow off the back of that very good win. But as we mentioned at the top of the show, look, it's a horse who is bouncing out of a fairly good race with some nice horses out of it and that finished in behind her. So, yeah, I'd say Princess Larry and Glory Bound are the two that I'm looking towards anyway at the $10 and $18 at this stage. Okay,
getting back to tomorrow's race, Paul, you mentioned Princess Larry. She had no luck at Trentham. I know one was going to beat La Creek, as Pops rightly pointed out, but sat 3 wide the trip. Gets back up to 2,000, which I think will be suiting the horse. So you've got Princess Larry in play tomorrow?
I certainly do. I do like the top 4 price there for Princess Larry at $2.40. Obviously, Ballon Rouge will be very, very tough to beat, but I've left her out of my plan. I'm looking for someone to slot into 3rd or 4th, and I think the one that represents the best chance at a bit of a price, I think, is Princess Lowry, $2.40 for a top 4.
Yeah, okay. It's interesting. But how much stock do you put in that track work, BP, we saw between Ballon Rouge and Self Obsession? I mean, I see the prices have certainly put a fair bit in it. There seems to be a fair old gap there, 210, 550, but it was quite dominant on the eye, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, it was. And look, maybe Self Obsession has come on with that gallop as well. I mean, maybe this week's been her week, following a good little trip to Rapa and a hit out, and then this week's been for her. So she might bounce off that as well. So it was an encouraging piece of work, though, wasn't it, from Ballon Rouge with what she was able to do on the course proper last week. Look, the other horse that needs a mention in this is Achieve, runner number 3. She's in single figures. She's a horse who pushed Ballon Rouge 2 starts ago in the eulogy when running second. She just looks like a filly that is going to appreciate distance. She's a runner that ran over the mile last time out and was beaten in behind Pin Me Up when finishing into 5th position, of course, in the $1 million race on Karaka United, the 3-year-old classic. So she brings a form line where she's almost just hovering under the radar a touch when really her last 2 runs should have her in lights. So out of the right barn, James and Wellwood, they'll be working backwards from their plan, of course, to try and get to the Oaks. She's a dangerous prospect in the race as a chief. I know we're mentioning a lot of horses here, but it's just that type of race, I think.
Yeah, we haven't talked about the track conditions. Do we know, where we see them sitting, Pops? There's going to be a bit of sting out. There's no doubt about that. It's obviously probably not so much for concern in that two-year-old race because we don't know a lot of things. Is there any horse that's going to suit dead to slow track here more than others?
Yeah, look, the track conditions is a funny one, isn't it? I mean, look, it's one of the best drying tracks and best draining tracks in the country is Te Rapa, and Bart Cowan and his team, they do a terrific job. Now, we've had a lot of rain, in the early part of this week, and it's just gradually started to work its way back into that dead bracket. Now, there is some rain forecast for later through Friday, and how much an effect that will have on the track, but in terms of drying, I mean, it's been very muggy around most parts of the country and very warm. So it's a chance that it could come back quickly, but it just depends on how much more rain we get through the afternoon. So we'll be on track, both Emily at Boston and myself. So we'll be catching up with Bart Cowan around about 11 o'clock, somewhere around that time slot tomorrow. So make sure you try and catch that trackside live as we get the latest on just how the track condition is and how much rain they've had and those sort of key pointers before maybe placing your bets tomorrow.
Yeah,
A
excellent.
couple of legends on course.
Yeah, who's that? BP?
Yeah, and Emily.
Oh, yeah, very much so. It's quite stuffy in here, isn't it? Just
Yeah.
to be perfectly honest, it's quite stuffy.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I don't know what that is. Okay, Pop, sum it up for us. Glory bound each way, or what's the play here?
Yep. Yeah, I'll have something on Glory Bound, sitting around $5, $6. And as I said, this could be a market where she might get a touch longer because of maybe a Ballon Rouge if Opie gets the day up and running through the early part of the day. Then there could be that squeeze on the $2.10 that we see around this particular run-up. Look, she is without a doubt the one to beat, I think, with what we've seen through her work and also her two most recent victories off the back of her Group 1 placing. Self-Obsession, and I think Princess Larry is the one that I'm happy to have something on in that top 4 market.
Yeah, okay. You echo those sentiments, Paul. And how are you attacking it?
Yeah, big time. Princess Larry for a top 4 finish at 240. And I'll probably slot Mustang Valley in there somewhere as well.
You haven't given up?
I haven't given up, and
Won't mind a bit of sting out.
no, exactly. And with Murray sort of waving goodbye, sort of thing,
yeah.
I get the feeling that he'd like to tuck a few more dollars away just before he...
The retirement fund.
Yeah, exactly. So Mustang Valley currently 240 in the top 4 market as well.
Yeah, okay. So we've got the makings of a potential nice little quinella there. Glory Bound, Mustang Valley, Princess Lowry and chucking Ballon Rouge.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because we've come unstuck by leaving out Tiako hot favourites before.
Yeah, exactly. You've just been telling me it's the way to go with Maiden Bell. Well, anyway, rightio, guys. We'll move it on. Race number 7 on the card, and it's Group 1 time. Group 1 time, the Herbie Dyke, Group 1, 2,000 metres. Weight for age, Paul. How's this market shaped up?
Yeah, I was talking with, who was it, Louis Herman Watt on SENZ not long ago. He was reeling off all these reasons why the Chosen won't win. And then he said, can we get a better price?
Yes.
So I'll tell you what, there are a lot of punters out there who are very, very keen on the Chosen One. $2.10 favourite there. The money hasn't stopped since the market opened. So a very well-backed favourite in the Chosen One. Coventina Bone, the second line of betting at $3.80. Tiptronic, the interesting runner here at $6.50. Opie Boston jumps aboard. Sound at $12. Stephen Marsh's Vernon Me at $15. Royal Performer at $15, Harlock at $16, the Mare back from Australia at $26, and Lana Court at $31.
Okay. This is very interesting, BP, this market. I just don't know. There's this second up theory just hanging in this race around the Chosen One. How much stock do you put in it? $2.10. They're obviously still keen. No surprise after that Thornton Mile win. But what about the second up syndrome? Talk to us.
Well, look, I've done some digging on this, his second up runs. So there's been 6 of them, haven't there? So the time that he won was at his very second start to the races. So he won his first start run, and then he won his second start to the races, did the Chosen One. And then we've seen unplaced efforts from him. But, all of those runs have been in Australia. Now, he's either come off the back of good runs here in New Zealand. He's bounced off a placing in a Group 1 Haunui to then have his second up run in Australia when he was beaten in the Randwick City Cup. He's also had a placing in this race back in 2000, last year in fact, back in 2021, and was then beaten in the Underwood. Now, another key point as well, his last time that he was second up, he ran fourth behind Zaki, Probabeel and Superstorm and was beaten 6 lengths in the Underwood. Now, it'd be fair to say, not many of these horses would get in cooee of those 3 runners. This has got within 6 lengths of those 3 horses who combined have won 7 Group 1s. Zaki, Probabeel and Superstorm. And he actually went a really good race in that particular event in the Underwood. So all of his second up runs are in Australia in red hot fields, beaten by very good horses. I mean, it is a valid argument, and I think I have to respect it because the stats don't lie, but I just feel as though you can dig into it a touch more and find that he is coming up against the elite horses, where on the weekend, his biggest dangers, I think, are horses like Tiptronic. Yes, because he goes forward. He's a Group 1 winner here. We've got 3 former winners of this race in the Herbie Dyke and Tiptronic, Raw Performer and On the Rocks. But his Australian form is outstanding. It really is rock solid. A Group 1 performer, a genuine Group 1 performer on both sides of the Tasman.
Yeah, so you're suggesting it's more the situation the horse has been placed in rather than the horse itself.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of those runs have been used off the back of, like I said, twice, off the back of his 2 fresh up runs here, were then used as lead up runs towards the rest of his preparation in Australia over 1,800 metres, where this has always been on his radar to run in this race. They decided to take that option of the Thorndon Mile because the conditions of the race suited nicely, and then they can then springboard off the back of this Herbie Dyke run into Australia. So I'm still pretty keen to be on him. I think Tiptronic is the horse that will give him something to fight, though, in this race, because he's going to land in that position of being forward and running. He is in good nick. He is in genuine New Zealand Group 1 form at the moment, isn't he, Tiptronic? And with Opie Bosson aboard, there's another length. He's $6.50. If you don't want 210, well, maybe being on the horse that'll be in front giving you a sight is your bet.
Yeah, what about the speed? I mean, he probably looks like he gets it pretty easy to me.
Yeah, look, he does, doesn't he? I mean, look, you've got horses like Vernon Me, who's drawn in barrier number 1. Now, Vernon Me ran a great race in the Zabeel Classic at massive odds, and that was aided by him being put into the race. He was a horse that was up there with Tiptronic and finished into second position in the Zabeel Classic. He's drawn in barrier number 1. You'd imagine he's going to make full use of his barrier draw. And then it's just down to other horses in the race with what they want to do. I mean, what do we get from Royal Performer on the weekend, drawn low in barrier number 3, but overall, he looks to be a horse that'll find that position, find that he wants to be in that coveted spot. And look, he was taken on last time out to the races, of course, in the Karaka Cup when he had to carry a lot of weight. He carried 61.5 kilos. It was a fair bit of merit in that run. I mean, he carried extra weight and he was only beaten 4 lengths, was Tiptronic. He's been set for this off the back of his Zabeel Classic run, a previous winner. He's also, run 3rd in 2019, 6th in this race last year. He's in good form. He will certainly give something to chase for the favourite in the race and the chosen one.
Yeah, Paulie, what are you thinking? Pops is buying the 210. You buying or selling?
I'm buying as well. Yeah. It's all very well looking at the stats, but putting a wee bit of background behind them can then give you a better picture of just how things lie. So I just think the chosen one just showed in the Thorndon that
Yeah, killed them, didn't he?
Yeah, just a wee bit too good. And I do like Tiptronic as well. Forget the last time where I think they were going at close to a 1,200 metre pace. It's no surprising that had nothing left.
I feel that like it was a pipe opener for this race, wasn't it? They just sent him round with a big weight, keep him ticking over. Is that what I felt?
Yes,
something similar.
Still, yeah. And I've got him in the combinations as well with Opie jumping on. I just like the look of those two. It's almost like the Thorndon, where I did like the chosen one, and Coventina Bay.
There we go. You're harping back to your glory days, I see.
I don't have many of them. So I do like the chosen one, but I've got to throw Tiptronic in there as well somewhere.
Well, let's talk about Coventina Bay, BP. Looked so good in the Thorndon, a little bit unlucky back down on the inside. Wouldn't have beaten the chosen one, but got an awfully sticky draw there, I think, at 11.
Look, she has, and she's going up over ground for the very first time. We see her going beyond the 1,600 metres. So with her having such a bad gait, you'd imagine looking to try and settle, get her into a rhythm. I get worried about where she's going to end up in a race where, if it is on-speed dominated, and looking to try and make sure she sees out that distance of 2,000 metres and can be, rearing to go at the end of the race, like we so often see with her explosive turn of foot. So the concern for me is just how many lengths is she conceding to the better horses in this race, the likes of Tiptronic and also the Chosen One, because the Chosen One should be able to, he should be in the better half of the field, where Tiptronic looks to be, first and second and running and all going well up against the rails. So that means she's giving a lot of lengths away in a race that could be dictated up front, maybe something similar to what we saw in the Zabeel Classic with how Tiptronic really dictated that race and made it so hard for Too Illicit and Concert Hall and some of those big guns in the race that were looking to go back, settle and try and run into the race. And just sectionally, it made it too hard to do because it was all done up front by Tiptronic. And if that happens again here, well, then it could make it very hard for Coventina Bay to win the race. She could still run an enormous race and be rattling home and be the one you want to be on next time to the races with more distance. But yeah, the race shape may not suit her.
It's going to be tricky. Anything else that we need to have in our combinations, Paul? You got anything down the page for us in a Herbie Dyke?
Yeah, maybe the mare.
Okay.
I'm not sure how to line the mare up here. But we saw with the Chosen One who just came back from Australia and did the business. Now, I'm not saying the mare's in the same sort of class, but has had a wee bit of success over in Australia. And at $26, well, certainly the top 3 or top 4 price does interest me.
Trial was good. Won't mind a little bit of sting out.
No,
There's
exactly.
A few pluses, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, okay. $26. The other one I want to talk about, BP, is Sound. There was a lot of money from him in the Zabeel Classic. It surprised me to some degree because I've never really seen him get warmed up until they hit the 1.5 mile marker. But, it's hard to rule him out with his Australian form, isn't it?
Well, that's right. I mean, if we're talking Australian form, and for instance, the mare, who does bring, good Cups form into this race, with, I think we rattled them off last week, with the amount of good Cups races this horse has competed in, Gold Coast Cups and Toowoomba Cups, Wyong Cups, Grafton Cups, those Albury Cups, all those races for the mare. Well, then the Sound is a horse who is zipping classic form. It's a horse who's performed in the Melbourne Cup. So where do we sort of place him and line him up? I mean, a lot of that money could have been classic Boxing Day money from Australia, seeing Sound taking his place in a Group 1 in New Zealand, inferior form, all those sort of angles potentially. But yeah, he's a horse we've seen in our Cups races like the Avondale Cup and of course the Auckland Cup, and they've made a very decent target to get him out here earlier than what we normally see instead of the week of the Avondale Cup when we normally see Sound. Look, his run was okay in the Zabeel Classic. I thought his trial was okay too. What I liked about his trial is it was all at the end. And look, it was only, 1,000 metres, the trial? 1,000 metres. Mascarpone won it. A horse who's in the BDC Group Sprint. Key to about that trial is both he and White Noise were all very good through the line, and they took an age to pull up. They really did get a good outing there out at Te Rapa last Wednesday. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to line him up. Maybe I'm looking for more distance before I'm keen to start putting him into my combinations, but he does have genuine good Aussie form.
Yeah, I think he's a $4 favourite for an Auckland Cup, so that's probably his main aim. But anyway, interesting runner. What about Royal Performer and Harlech quickly? I think Royal Performer's the defending champ, isn't it? But just we haven't seen the same form this time round, and Harlech loomed up like a winner in a Thorndon Mile and just knocked up for 4th. So can we see them being anywhere in this one?
Yeah, of course, Royal Performer Sport, the big party last year with Melody Bell, who went round at desperately short odds and looking to try and break records, and Royal Performer was able to take the race out in what was a big upset. Look, he's just a horse that just hasn't been able to discover that form this season, has he? He's got a draw in his favour. Jonathan Riddell is back aboard. He was aboard last time to the race. We're just trying to find that form that he was able to get himself into this time last year. Harlech's a horse who was bolting in the Thorndon Mile. I mean, he looked like he was going to win the Thorndon Mile, but then soon as the Chosen One and Matt Cameron really asked for that effort, he was able to extend and get away from Harlech. But he was trotting. He went up with what looked to be a handful of horse, Michael McNabb, and just folded late into finishing into 4th position. if he can get a cushy run, and it looks likely that he's going to be able to see out a fairly soft 2,000 metres with a good draw, but that gives him his chance of at least running another big race with what we've seen so far through Harlech's career, and also this season with another Group 1 placing possibly. But in the end, I think Tiptronic's a horse that will give the big sight in the race, and he could peel it off. If he gets the right sectionals in front, he could win another Group 1. He's won 2, he's won this race previously. I think the $2 around the Chosen One and also Tiptronic to finish in the top 4 in the power plays is a good bet. That is a nice bet that I'm looking towards. My top pick in the race, I'll go with the proven Australian form around the Chosen One.
He's going with the Chosen One. What'd you do? What'd you settle on, Paul?
I see things in a similar vein. I'm taking the fixed Cornella, the Chosen One, and Tiptronic.
I like it.
At 6:30.
Okay.
Yes, Tiptronic could get away here, but I do see the Chosen One just flying down the outside and winning the race in the end. So I've taken the 1 and the 3 for a fixed Cornella at 6:30, and also like the mare for a top 4 finish at $3.60.
Okay, $3.60. Like that, Cornella. The boys in agreement around Tiptronic and the Chosen One. A little bit worried about that draw for Coventina Bay. Okay, we're going to get to the other Group 1 on the card, Paul. And boy, oh boy, we've got the match race we've all been wanting. We've been having, to be fair. On Trevier and Levante, how did they frame this market up?
Yeah, well, here we go. On Trevier at the top of the market there, even money, $2. Second line of betting, Levante at $2.50. Mascarpone at $9. Show of Roses, 13 out to 14. Marcus Aurelius, a wee bit of action on Marcus Aurelius, solid at $21. Packing Rockstar at $26. Gino Severini at $31. And Monaco at $41.
Yeah, okay, BP. The boys have framed it up on Trevier favourite at $2, ahead of Levante at $2.50, even though Levante downed her last time at Trentham. How do you see that $2, $2.50? Does that sort of sit well with you, or do you see some issues?
Look, you can make great cases for both horses, can't you, really? On Trevier, things didn't pan out for the horse with barrier number 1, did it in the Telegraph, and they decided to not use the barrier draw and look to try and come out and across and finished into 5th position, as we all saw. And Levante, it was almost a case of that they conceded important lengths towards Levante in that race, where she got in front of them. And that is something we haven't seen in these clashes. And of course, in the most recent clash on Trevier was back on the inside of Levante, was able to get out and get going at the right time. But with Levante, who was in front of on Trevier in the Telegraph, it immediately put that horse in pole position almost in that race in the Telegraph. Got to the front a little bit earlier than what they liked, and then had to hold up that late challenge from Rockin' Horse. This time round, we see on Trevier drawn in barrier number 3. Levante in barrier number 5. Gee, Levante's been jumping well. I mean, that's another thing we just have to, this time last year we were talking about the match race between her and Avantage, and she got it all wrong at the start. And now we've almost forgotten about those times that she's missed the start in races like the Wellington Guineas and other races from her. And the way that she's been jumping this season, it hasn't been a factor. So if she can jump well again, she gets a chance of putting herself in that prime position to try and chase down on Trevier. Look, I find it awfully hard to try and separate the two. I really do. I mean, Levante's got distance form over 1,400 metres. We get to see on Trevier have 3 shots at 1,400 metres for 2 placings. Levante was very good in winning a Counties Bowl here at this venue, and made up enormous ground last year when conceding at the start behind Avantage and Call Sign Mav and Mascarpone, who ran the trifecta last year in this race, to still finish into 5th position. I think Mascarpone has to be respected at the same time too. I don't think it's just a 2-horse race. I mean, you'd imagine it will be, and the Cornella will be popular, but Mascarpone does bring that different element of form. He was a runner that beat home on Trevier in the Telegraph. He has outstanding form here at this venue. He's won a Foxbridge and a Legacy Lodge at this venue at Te Rapa. And 1,400 metres is also a good distance for him. He ran 3rd in this race last year. So he's got a chance of putting himself forward and running like he can, and really saying catch me if you can tactics. And if he's on his game, well, he'll give them something to chase. There's no doubting that. And then you've got Show of Roses, who's drawn barrier number 1, who's won a Cal Isuzu at this venue. On Trivier, Levante, flip of the coin. I really do think it's a flip of the coin about who gets that right run in transit at the right time. And look, on Trivier does have Opie Boston aboard, and maybe he will make all those right decisions that we've seen so often from him once again.
Yeah, okay. Drawn 3, Levante 5, Paul. Potentially on Trivier is going to be in front of Levante this time. No, potentially. That could be the difference.
I would say that, not potentially. On Trivier will be in front. At the start this time. But yes, I'm looking elsewhere as well. I thought Mascarpone, who BP said third in this last year, only a nose behind the runner-up Course-I Mav, and there's no advantage this time. Unfortunately, there's an on Trivier and a Levante, though.
Yes.
But still, Mascarpone has to be respected, and I think that $1.90 for a top 3 isn't the worst. No. And I'm just intrigued by this sort of money that's come for Marcus Aurelius.
I hope you were going to mention that. Yeah. Interesting, the Copeland's winner.
Yeah, at $21. I mean, when was the last time Sam Weatherly rode a Tiarcow $20 shot to victory in a major? I can't remember.
Come on, tell me.
No,
when was it?
Can't remember. BP might be able to remind us, but yeah.
He's an interesting runner, isn't he?
Exactly.
Yeah, I want to get BP's thoughts on Marcus Aurelius because, look, we know him over a mile. He's an up-and-comer. He's sort of jumping through the grades pretty quickly, rating 74 up to this sort of company, and obviously took out the Group 3 down there at Rickett in pretty fine style. He was a hard one to frame up for the lads, it'd be fair to say.
He's a hard one to work out, isn't he? I mean, like, the money is talking around Marcus Aurelius. Look, his run was okay in behind Babylon Berlin with how that race panned out and where he was in running, and I know that there was money for him in that race too. On Karaka Million Night when beaten him behind Babylon Berlin. I mean, the horse started around the $4.40 mark in that race over 1,200 metres. So there was support for him that he was able to do the job there, but he was slow away from an awkward draw and he got in a tricky spot. Where does he end up? He's a horse who could take more of a position if they're looking for that. If they believe they can maybe try and track a horse like Mascarpone. I'm not sure how they want to take it tactically with him, but yeah, I was quite surprised actually. Is it that factor with what you just mentioned? Is it because it's the Tangerine? Sam Weatherly's aboard. We all missed the boat last time with Pin Me Up, and punters are trying to see something here that others aren't.
Is it a bit of the unknown? We know the packing rock stars, we know the Genos, we know the Show of Roses to a degree, and we're just not quite sure where Marcus fits in, and we don't want to miss out if he does come out and do something. Is it maybe that's playing a part?
Perhaps the bookies don't know where to fit him in either.
Well, I don't think they did. I sat in on the meeting when the boys were pricing that up, and there was some discrepancy in what the team put out. We settled on $21, but some probably had him as short as around 12, and some had him out at 30 plus. So he certainly adds some intrigue, doesn't he, Pops?
He does. And then look, let's marry him up with a horse like Show of Roses. Now Show of Roses is a horse that has genuine 1,400 metre form. We've seen her push out to 1,600 metres as well through her previous campaign. She's a horse who's won here at this venue and has tactical speed and has drawn barrier number 1, where she's sitting at around, opened at $13, which was probably the right price. But we're almost seeing these two horses at similar quotes, where one's going to be in a forward position, and we know where Marcus Aurelius is that up and comer. Yes, he did win the Copeland's Mile, but is still an up and comer and new to Group 1 sprinting racing. He is an unknown and a tricky horse to try and work out for this race. I'm not too sure what to do with him. I really don't know. And maybe the money is going to be the overall push around where he sits in this market, but I don't know. I think Show of Roses is a horse that will be able to use that barrier draw. We've seen the barrier speed from her. I know they always don't like having barrier number 1 for her, but look, she's a horse that's going to be leading or trailing at least, depending on what Mascarpone wants to do from out wide. If Jonathan Riddell's is labelling this horse urgent in terms of putting that horse up against the Dulux. But what we do know is that Show of Roses will be either in front or in a trailing spot and giving herself an opportunity. Yeah,
she's a game mare. She deserves her chance. And just off what you're saying, though, BP, it does feel like on Trivier is going to get into the perfect position there with Opie Boston. So surmise the race for us. How would you attack it from a betting perspective this year?
Yeah, look, I think On Trevier is the one that if you really wanted to screw me down in terms of a winning selection with where she does end up in the race with her better barrier draw or slightly better barrier draw than Levante. If I was to have a top 4 bet in the race, I'd be having a look at Show of Roses, just with where she might be able to track in the race, get a soft run in behind them, and she's very gutsy and determined in terms of how she races. She's a hard horse to get past. So maybe the top 4 around her and Show of Roses.
Okay. What are you thinking, Paul? Straight trifectas?
No, I'm not. It does look like a match race, and I hope we get the match race that we all want.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to look out just outside that, and I think just the fact that Mascarpone has done the business before, I'll take for a top 3, $1.90.
Don't think Roger'd mind spoiling the party, would he? Yeah, very good. Oh, no, look, it's going to be an outstanding race. There's no doubt about that. Trivia $2, Levante $2.50, Mascarpone $9, Show Roses $14, and Marcus Aurelius some money at $21. An intriguing edition of the BCD Sprint. Okay, boys. Any other bets on the card? BP races 4 or 10. Have you got anything else that we need to be looking at before we wind it up for the day?
Yeah, there was a couple I thought, they're very good races 4 and 10. There's a heap of form through those Maiden Azat races. Excuse me, race 4 over 1,200 metres. I mean, Ange de Rive won quite impressively last time out, has a sticky gate, Narajan Palmer, who is riding super. Leona Raw, they nearly pulled off the biggest plunge. They nearly pulled off the biggest plunge we've seen of 2022 when it got bombed on the line by Rip Van Gogh. 18s into $6.40. You're not getting $18 again, sorry team. It's going to have to be $7. But I will be watching that horse very closely. I thought Cool Change, drawn barrier number 1, was a horse who was beaten in behind Sort of State last time out. Won a good race on speed 2 starts ago at Tiaraha. She might be a good contender for a top 3, top 4. And then, we'll quickly get your thought. Paul, you got a thought on this race?
For us in race 4?
Oh, I'm just thinking that was probably part of Murray's retirement fund that you've just eaten into there.
We've done him a disservice there with Leon. That was a massive debut run. It's not too often we're cheering for Opie and Jamie to come down the outside and bomb something, but that was the case there. Did you have a bet in race 4 or?
I didn't mind the look of Myrtle Creek at around 12 and 380 in each way go.
Okay. Race 10 BP, did you have one there? Because that's another good betting race.
Yeah, it was taken by a horse called Billy Bunter last time out. Now, this horse comes into this race as a maiden galloper, but is sitting around $13 at the moment, drawn in barrier number 5. Matt Cameron looking for a big day, this one for the Corniget team. Now, if you go through his runs, 2 starts ago, I mentioned Cool Change. He was in that Cool Change race and he ran really good sectionals when finishing 5th. 4th in that race was Selassie, in fact, in that particular Cool Change race. Then has got back when Polly Plum got to the front, blew them away, and this horse rattled home strongly into second position, beaten around 3 lengths. He's got himself a barrier draw of 5. It's his best barrier draw he's had in his 3 race day runs. I thought he was nice on the each way at around $13 in the last.
I like that. I think he's found some value there. Did you have anything in the last, Paul?
I didn't mind the look of that 4-year-old Hong Kong last start winner with Jonathan Riddell aboard.
Yeah, okay. Lisa Ladder, Jonathan Riddell, Hong Kong last start winner 8.5 there. BP with Billy Bunter at 13s. Okay, boys.
What about Riccarton? Nothing?
Well, no, yeah, have you got something at Riccarton? I mean, it's going to be a wet track down there. Banks Peninsula Cup. I mean, it was only the strength of the Te Rapa card that we couldn't touch on Riccarton today, but did you have one? Camino Ricoso or something in the Banks Peninsula Cup?
I didn't mind, what was it, Ocean Point?
Yeah, it was going on its winning way. It was a good win last time, wasn't it?
What do we got there around the $8 mark?
Okay. What race number?
Race 8 at Riccarton, the C.S. Stevens Memorial Banks Peninsula Cup. Sorry,
look at the boys.
Southern Ocean.
Well done.
$8.
Well done, team. Well, team. Yeah, exactly right. Ocean Point. $8 was it? The Southern Ocean. No, yeah.
Southern Ocean.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. And the Cup, Camino Ricoso there. Okay, enough waffling. Don't give away all your bets of the weekend, but give us a best bet, Paul. Which way are you going?
I'm going back to Te Rapa, to the 2-year-old classic, and I just can't look away from Opie Bosson and Jamie Richards, Marvin Bell.
Oh, yeah, okay.
What are we, 210?
210, lap it up.
Please do.
Maltese, Cooper Cup, Chosen One, Maven Bell.
Maori All-Stars in the league. They'll be playing for Olsen.
Oh, okay, very good. Okay, Marvin Bell, Paul's best bets, $2.10 in the Group 3 2-year-old feature there. BP, we come to you. Which way are you looking for your bet of the weekend?
Not sure if we've got any vision of Cooper Cups for my best bet.
They've done a good job today, the Trackside boys. I don't know if they've got the Cooper Cup footage.
No, we'll go with Spirit of Baz in race number 1. Looks a really well-placed horse. She's putting the runs on the board. She's had 13 starts for 4 wins. In Opie Boston rides once again. This is a horse winning a 74 last time at Ellerslie over 2,100 metres. She comes into this race as the highest assessed horse with a rating of 75 going into this race. Yes, she will have to carry 58.5, but she just looks to be in a really good vein of form at the moment. She opened at $2.40, and a lot of punters have snaffled that up and have run through multis already or had single bets, and is now at a quote of $2.20. So I was happy to kick off the day with Spirit of Baz.
Yeah, okay, $2.20 Spirit of Baz. What's happening on the promotion front this week, Paul? Because I'm concerned there are too many again.
I'm glad you asked, because we've got plenty this weekend as well. It's another bonus back blitz on Saturday. Bonus back promotion on the first 4 races from Riccarton Park, Te Rapa, Caulfield and Randwick. And I know this is a thoroughbred show, but we're also doing a bonus back promotion on all 6 races from the Alex Park Harness meeting on Saturday night.
Every race?
All 6 races.
There's have you seen the price of the favourites at Alexandra Park on Saturday night?
Well, I have, yeah.
I see South Coast Ardens come out this morning and leave Self-Assured at about $1.15 to win the last. I think the all up on the 6 favourites is about $5.
There we go. 22 races bonus backed this Saturday night.
Nothing else.
Can I just throw something in here, team? Does that also include race number 2 where there's only 3 runners, the bonus back?
Paul?
Indeed it does.
Surely you've made a mistake there, Pops. That can't be right, can it?
You can have a free hit. That's what the TAB is saying. So race 2 at Alexandra Park, and what is going to be a massive night. We're certainly going to be zipping home to be watching Alexandra Park on a Saturday night with the Harness Millions. But yes, there is 3 runners in race number 2. $127 and $6.50 for the 3 runners, and you've got a free hit.
Highgrove $1.20 that we can go Wi-Fi. There's another one there as well. So yeah, okay. $1.20 Highgrove. That's probably worth. What would you do there, BP? Would you go take the 6 or 7 and just hope for the best?
Probably, wouldn't you? I mean, have you 30 or 50? What is the return? $50 bonus bet. 50
up to 50. Yep.
Okay.
I was burnt on Wi-Fi last time out, so when I went around very short at Alexandra Park last Thursday. But yeah, look at that. We're cross-coding.
Oh, we've had to struggle through, haven't we, without Steve Hunt? We've had league, we've had plenty of those. We've got cross-coding. He wouldn't have any harness on the show if he was here, would he?
No,
Steve?
he won't be happy at home right now.
No, he won't be.
He will not be happy.
Well, on that note, we'd better wind it up. BP, thanks for your efforts. You put in a Herculean performance without Stephen Hunt here. We appreciate your time as always, and you mentioned you're on track tomorrow.
Certainly am, yeah, can't wait. Really, we start ramping it up now, don't we, as we get closer towards the Derby and Auckland Cup out of Ellerslie. So we've got this huge meeting, Legends Day out of Te Rapa, and the addition, of course, of that extra stakes race in the 2-year-old race from last weekend's Taranaki race meeting. And then we start working towards Avondale Guineas, the Matamata Breeders, the Group 1 out of Otaki, and then into Derby weekend. It'll all come around very quickly, some of those features out of Ellerslie. So, yeah, an important sort of 4 to 5 weeks coming up.
Yeah, 100% echo those comments. We've got autumn's going to be huge, Paul.
Huge,
looking forward to it.
Just back to Te Rapa, $20,000 guaranteed first 4 in every race.
Oh, yeah.
$75,000 guaranteed late quaddy at Te Rapa, and a $30,000 guaranteed late quaddy at Riccarton.
Okay. No, and those first 4s can jackpot too, but there's some big fields there at Te Rapa, so
exactly.
It only takes a couple to be a bit rough, and we go big.
Bang.
Okay, excellent. We'll look forward to that with interest. Thank you, BP, as I mentioned. Thank you, Paul, for your efforts. Done well today in Steve's absence.
Yeah, I might have to have a week off.
No, yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it next week. But we will be back with you in 7 days' time. Thank you for joining us again on The Leg Up.